You are now entering the LuxCore Studios. And you've secured a seat for the Protecting Your Radius podcast. Here, we build connections from your contracting profession to some of the top bleeding edge products and services. Don't get deterred. Let's not delay. Here is your host, Nathan Downs.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Protecting Your Radius podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Downs. Hey, today's episode's a little different, a little something special for you. Got to do a joint interview with Mr. Dan Wheeler from the Fence Industry podcast. And then we have a little bonus episode immediately following that. So enjoy this one. It's good. Dan asked me a bunch of great questions, and then I get to kind of flip the script on him and ask him some real important questions for you, those of you that have been in the business for a long time, maybe have family businesses that you're continuing to grow, looking at next steps and whatnot. Dan has a lot of good insight into that. And as always, check out all of our friends, affiliate sponsors of the show. You can go to protectingyourradius.com to catch up with them. And we always, as always, thank FenceTech, StainTrack, Wood Defender, Southwest Automated Security, Ozark Wireworks, everyone that's teamed up with us on a day-to-day. Benji McKinney over at cleverfox.online, Rob Noble, our producer. Man, we're blessed to have such a great team behind us and to be able to do this fun stuff. So enjoy this one. Thanks.
He is my, I believe, the fifth most downloaded podcast on the Fence Industry podcast. And I had to throw a jab in there, Nathan. I'm sure you listened to this or listened to it tomorrow morning, real time, a week ago. But Dan Blanc fell to number 8, but 6, 7, and 8 is separated by like 10. And I said in there, I said, just like his podcast is slipping, Dan Blanc slipped to number 8 in the ranks. I had to do it. I seen it. I'm like, oh, I'm taking advantage of it. But guys, today we're talking about growing at a breakneck speed. I want to grow. A lot of guys out there want to grow. There's some people saying don't grow right now. And I think it's all case by case basis. I think some established companies are okay to grow because they probably know what's going on. They know their market. They know their feeling. There's other guys out there that are, I've been dubbing them the COVID babies. Don't take any offense to that, but they popped up in a good time. They're riding that wave. Some guys see that wave run out. Some guys still see a good number of leads coming in, jobs are still coming in, people are still spending money. I'm grateful and knock on wood up here in the upper Midwest. Things are still good. Our season's still going strong. It's 41 degrees. I just walked my new puppy Zuko for 2 miles outside, and it's at 9:30 at night. So like I can't complain. And we're in Northwest Illinois, basically Wisconsin. So Nathan, dude, we were talking before we hit record. You're only at month 21 for Radius Fence. Right. And dude, you're going to hit 2.5 million. So less than 2 years, you're going to hit. So technically I would, say, okay, 21. So 3 more months. We're going to the winter. So you're crushing, dude. You're crushing.
Yeah. So that's the rolling 12. That's 2023. And as a lot of people know, we talked about it, my first 12 months, which is a little overlap, right? Like 3 months overlap because I started full-time March 4th, 2021. We did 1.7. So I think overall sales since I went full-time in the business is like 3.6 or 3.7, somewhere around there. Like it actually is like up that way, yeah.
And just for someone who hasn't gone back and listened to that episode, I highly recommend you do it. Nathan, how many years? Because you're not a COVID baby. You're not new to the world. How many years do you have in the fence world?
Yeah, I started in 2006, 2007 at Ameristar. Right, it's been a minute.
I graduated in 2006.
Oh no, you're making me feel old. Look at all this white hair I've got while I've been in the fence business.
I got my hair cut the other day, Nathan. You can see it right there's one. Right there's one. I got grays popping up, like crazy. I'll take them though. I'll take them. I think.
Look at this. Then it goes away, and bro, it's coming, man. I'm just saying, it's part of the gig. For those,
those are
Watching
growing
later,
pains.
see.
I think those are the good growing pains. And
Exactly.
people that are, or everyone that's listening, we're talking about grazing our hair and losing hair. You would think my visits to the barber would get cheaper, Nathan, but they don't. But yeah, so
No discounts yet.
yeah. Since 2006, you've been in the world. You started with a Ameristar, right? Which, if you don't know Ameristar ornamental steel fencing, it is. That's what we install. I'm actually installing tomorrow, Nathan, around a pool. I absolutely love it. It's just, it doesn't get any better than that, in my opinion. And that's just me talking, but that's me. But Nathan, I know everyone's going to like so 0 to 2.5 million in 2 years. I'll probably put that somewhere in the title because actually David Olson's episode was number 4 and his was at 0 to 1.5 in 2 years. So people want to know. It's like that catchy, right? And they're going to want to know, how in the world did you do it? So man, I don't even know where we start. In a nutshell, how'd you do it? So here's my question. And so we're going to grow next year. Here's my question. Do you start with the work first or the people first?
Man, that is a great question.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have the work to pay the bills, right? But at the same time, you have to have the people in the right places to make things happen. So fortunately for me, with my experience and the things that I had learned from my mentors in the business, I've been able to basically establish like this formula of how to massively produce a lot of activity. My sales background from when I was younger, before I got into fence, that was how I got pulled in at Ameristar, was in a sales role, right? So I've been a sales guy since I was, a teenager, but really a trained sales guy since college. And man, I think that was the key for me in understanding, having a really solid understanding of how to build a fence, being able to build a fence. But then I knew that that's never my strong suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't need to be the one building it. Although some days you will find me in a gate operator or fixing a gate, like a walk gate or something along those lines. Simple things, right? But for the most part, I really try. I've always known what my lane and what my area of excellence is, and then staying in that as much as possible. With our team, it's been the same thing, Dan. I mean, if you really want to grow, that's one of the things. You guys have heard this. I think I've actually said it on your podcast, but I know I've mentioned it a number of times on mine. Like Donnie Lockhart, we've got the Downtime with Donnie show. Everybody knows Donnie. Thousands of you are listening to his stuff all the time. And what's cool about that is Donnie has been in the business for 37 years. He's a field guy, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he's done sales, but he's bread and butter. He's a guy that's got his nail bag on. He'll tell you about his nail bag.
He's classic. He's a classic fence dude. Like, dude,
I'm telling you.
Like, if you like, he is so similar to my dad. It's scary. Like, same person. Yeah. Little grumpy probably here and there, right? I don't know why you would do it that way. That way, stupid, dumb, you idiot.
You guys idiots?
Yeah.
Are you an idiot? Oh my gosh.
That's just how they are. But he also brings 37 years of experience in, right? And that goes back to knowing your role, knowing your lane. Off of that, Nathan, so you got him, Donnie Lockhart, 37 years yourself.
Yep.
Now.
And now we added Randy Ward. A lot of people know Randy. He's a past president of the American Fence Association. I mean, he was a general manager at Modern Fence over in Northwest Arkansas for over a decade. I mean, just has owned his own fence and gate company out of California. I mean, the guy's been around since when I was born, dude. So over 40 years experience, man. And it's so cool. He's been a mentor of mine over the past decade. Once I got into contracting in 2013, I met Randy pretty new. He's the one that got me in the AFA. Mm-hmm. He's the one that started mentoring me from outside of that. And man, it is just super cool to be able to work over a series of years to recruit him to my vision. Like, I have this vision, right? And that was like Donnie. Like, to go back, like, kind of rewind, Donnie came to me about 2 months after I left our previous company. And he said he wanted to make a change. And I'm like, okay. Like, he just showed up at my shop, and I'm like, what's up, dude? And he's like, man, I'm ready to make a change. And I'm like, I am what? I'm going, I'm not ready to hire somebody. I'm trying to pay for my own salary, let alone worry about someone else's. But, I started crunching the numbers. And one thing we're talking about this, Matt Warner with My Salesman, Empire Fence and Net, a million other companies now. He's starting to do this like Q&A podcast live thing on, it looks like once a month or something on a Monday, like Monday with Matt or something. I apologize to Mr. Warner for not knowing the correct name, but he just did one the other night, and his first one. And I was on that listening to what he was talking about. And it was so funny. He and Robert Whitaker with Purple Coaching out of Fort Worth. A lot of you guys know Robert from Dan's show, and a bunch of us have had him on our shows too. But like, they were talking about, stop thinking about the next hire from, like, let's say you want to go out and recruit a Randy Ward. Well, it's going to take 6 figures to bring that guy in. Well, I can't afford a 6-figure income. But you know how I looked at it? I thought about it the same way you eat an elephant. We've heard this now over the years, right? You eat an elephant one bite at a time. And it was the same concept. So I never looked at the overhead of bringing like a Donnie on or a Randy from the perspective of how much am I going to pay them over this year? How much are they going to cost here? I looked at it from a weekly nut and then built the blocks off that. So now I know my costing. What do I need to bring in? What do I need to have in the bank saved up? Like, when are times, when do I really need to worry about cash flow crunch? And just understanding your numbers. Sound like a broken record every time I get on my own show now. And if any of you guys heard my my Prime episode from a couple weeks, like a week or two ago, that whole, did you listen to that one, Dan? Like, I got really, really upset. Like, my wife was like texting me the morning it dropped. Why are you so mad? And I'm like, all right, like, I get it. Yeah. But I was thinking about, like, your listeners, Dan, like the young guys out there, the COVID babies, we're not saying this mean. We're saying it from the perspective of, you have lived in a world where there's no adversity. You're young enough to where your millennial mind views everything completely not the real way that it's going to be, right? You see what I'm saying? Without adversity, it's very easy for our under 40s to get caught up in your own glory to a point you're good. And bro, I'm saying this from my perspective. I have the same freaking problem. I can sit here and be like, yeah, we did almost, $4 million in our first 2 years or something like that. Who cares, man? Because if then we don't do anything next year, then, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything, right? So you've got to know, you've really got to understand what are your building blocks and what are you trying to achieve and what's your goal? What's your vision for the future? And that's how we've gotten to where we are so fast.
So you kind of talked about your vision with this and growing. When did you always know you wanted to have your own fence company, or when did that come about? Or were you planting seeds? Like, you can say that you planted a seed with Donnie, you planted a seed with Randy, right? Whether on purpose or just by your good nature and work ethic, whatever it may be, or, you're just doing well at your previous jobs and they're like, man, I like this guy, I could work for him. Were you planting seeds all along the way, or was this like a whole grand master plan, or did this just come out of nowhere and you're like, I'm just going to do this on my own?
I love it. So that's a great question. And I don't ever talk about this much because there's a lot of personal things in there, but I'll tell everyone the truth. In 2015, I was recruited to Empire Fence out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. They were one of the largest residential builders in the area. At the time, didn't have a commercial department, didn't do access control operators, none of that stuff, right? And my buddy Nathan Nelson approached me, and I was in a bad situation at my previous employer, real bad. I mean, my mental health was trash. Lots of very dark things going on at that time, and I knew I had to make a change. I was flying to Houston to talk to one of the big fence companies down there about moving to Houston to go run a division for their company. I missed my flight. Turned around. I had just had lunch with Nathan. I turned around from the airport, was freaking out. Oh my God, I missed my flight. Like what? How do you miss a flight? They left 9 minutes early. And like TSA held me up. I mean, it's all God stuff, man. It's great. Like I tell you the whole story, you'd be like, "What? How does that happen?" I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, there's something's over this deal, like for sure, right? But when we sat down and we negotiated everything, I had to take a huge step backwards in pay. I had to do all these things, but I told him I was going to prove that I could build something from nothing. But all I was using at the time was the brand of the company. So it had been around for 55 years at this point, 55, 60 years. And his money. He was going to write the checks. And everything else I was doing, I was completely autonomous. And Mr. Nelson was like, let's give it a shot, man. Because, I mean, what's the worst that could happen? He said, we're both hustlers. We're going to figure it out. Right. But when we started that from day one, Dan, I told him, I think I only want to do this 5 years. Like, I'm going to want to go do my own thing or something different in 5 years. So, like, let's plan 2015 to 2020. Like, that's going to be our track time. And there was other things that happened over time where the need to set up things and prepare to do my own thing had accelerated. And it wasn't Mr. Nelson's fault. It was a whole business and family and all that stuff. And then you can imagine the guy that's not family. It'd be like if you... Case in point, Dan, it would be like you and your dad and your mom having all this stuff. Then you got me sitting over here running all this, making all this money. We're talking, and I'm over here going, I don't know. One day I might need to do something different. That one day looks like it's coming sooner than later. So at the end of the day, 7 years in, we had a meeting on March 4th and decided that was it. And Radius was there full time, rocking and rolling. I mean, just literally as fast as I could. Didn't go after any Empire clients. That while I'm not about that, I hadn't done that with my previous employer that I left under terrible circumstances by their choosing, right? But I've never was that way. I'm like, there's enough market availability and work out there that I never felt like I'd have to go back and poach and stuff like that. And that was an integrity thing for me personally too, right? And, it just kind of blew up from there, man.
What everyone's going to ask, and today is a perfect day. What little time I spent on Facebook, I just see post after post of like, how are you getting leads? Does this work? Do door hangers work? And I'm sure you're going to say, well, the first thing is you need a Google business listing, but obviously there's a website. Those are the low hanging fruit. But they're going to ask, and maybe you had connections from all your other, but you said you didn't go after anyone, but your name's still out there, right?
Sure.
How did you just go about it? Like everyone's going to ask, like, yeah, but how did you get to 2.5 million in 21 months? Like it's not computing in their head. Like for me, like I that's wild, So how do you go from in 21 months to 2.5 million, rolling almost 4 million? It's crazy to think about that.
So one of my friends that's in insurance, the other night at basketball practice for my son, we're sitting there. Thank God I don't coach basketball. We just got done with football, won our postseason tournament, all that stuff. I know a lot of you guys that are friends with me saw that. It was pretty exciting going from what my son did the year before, where we won one game, the last game, and we scored one touchdown all year long, to this year. You see what I'm saying? I'm talking that's like, a big. I mean, bro, it's my Detroit Lions in real life. Like I'm just saying, like it's going from we're started at the bottom and now we're here. Like let's freaking go. Let's get something done. So all right, heck, I could talk about my my Wolverines, 26-0. Oh. Anyways.
I was expecting the worst, preparing, or was it preparing for the worst, expecting I don't know. It was horrible. I honestly thought it would be in the 30s to nothing. Yeah. I thought for sure, but I'll take it.
I mean, they covered the spread. I will point that out. Like we did cover spread on that against the Hawkeyes. But, thinking from a business perspective, let's use the Hawkeyes, because I have something interesting that I watch things, Dan, with like through a different lens. Like I don't even watch football or anything. I look for things that I can learn from myself for my own life, whether it's going to be coaching these kids, whether it's going to be coaching the team, whether it's just going to be like work ethic and all these things. But one thing that, and they even the announcers on the Big Ten championship game talked about it consistently, is they were talking about the fundamental soundness of Iowa Hawkeye defense. Mm-hmm. And bro, I'm talking, these guys were textbook perfection. Holy frick. Like, and I knew that they were. That's how you become 10-2, right? Especially with some of the competition that they had to play throughout the year. But looking at that, going, man, look at these guys. I mean, they're so disciplined. Like their reads, and when they surf off the containment and stuff. I mean, I'm sitting there super frustrated. But I said, guess what, bro? Ain't no other team they play is going to be like that. They're going to get the guy on contain is going to get aggressive. He's going to lose sight of what he knows in his head to try to do something, and then a JJ McCarthy or a Blake Cornbrough, and then you're like, oh. There's no one behind me. Oh, I didn't think about that. Yep. But that's not the Hawkeyes defense, right? They don't care about being flashy. They don't care. They are consistently hardcore. And to be fair, that's kind of what the Michigan Wolverine defense is like this year as well, right? Super fundamental sound, just dominant. Just, hey, this is what we do. This is how we do it. And I was thinking about business, man. I'm sitting there thinking, if we get better and we have a better process and we have a better program in place, and then once we know it works, and it really works, then run that over and over again, and do not get distracted by all the shiny stuff out there. Like, oh, I could add staining and stuff. Man, if you can't build a fence consistently and perfectly and all that stuff, freaking build your fence first. Don't worry about the stain. The stain's going to come. Now, someone like us, like our team and stuff, we have so much experience, we can immediately shift and add things on, which adds to revenue, right? We can pivot so fast, but especially being a young company, dude, that's probably the best part about it right now. Like, even like immediately do a 180, completely change everything, because we can. But that doesn't provide that consistency. It doesn't provide, you got to think about customer experience. You got to think about all these things that all these coaches out there are talking about, because the reason everyone's talking about it is because it works, Dan. Right. It's proven things. So how are we taking a trade like fencing, like gates? How are we taking our trade and just inviting little pieces of the process in, and then running those things? Like, we're not, we got a sweep play and we got an ISO, and that's it. Hey, you know what? If you got a sweep and an ISO and a pass, a slant over the middle, that's good enough. You don't have to get fancy. You don't have to have 19,000 variations of the same thing. Now, if you're our company at Radius, we do, but we have a lot of commanders on the field that have all this experience, way more than me. Right? I'm the least experienced one at my company. How about that? Except for the girls answering the phone. But think about that. Right. That's crazy, man. But I love it, because I'm like, dude, I'm Henry Ford going, no, I don't need to be the smartest guy here.
What, do you think that's one of the problems with the younger companies that are coming in? Like, they feel like they need to be the best at everything, and they just need, like, we call them grunts, right? Just grunts to hold this, do that, but they gotta get in the same position as you. And I'm guilty of it too. My dad and I are guilty of it too. Is we need to run the business like you say, and build the business through the habits that we've created, the good ones. And that consistency will keep building and building and building, and you can't do that when you're building a fence. So just like we said, all the mentors say, like, you can't, like Sean King says, you can't be on the conveyor belt. You got to be standing to the side and touching up here and there, right? You can't stand in the middle of it and it all come through you. It's not possible, and that's the hardest thing. That takes me right to my next question: is Nathan Downs, how do you step away? Which you're in a different position than me, right? All right, because I'm hands-on. I love building. I hired a salesman because I'd rather build fence and sell than sell it.
And that's okay.
And so how do you step away from it being the baby, your baby? You have to put every nail in every set, every post, and or I guess what's your best advice to going from that to working on the business, not in the business?
Yeah. So I immediately knew that I didn't want to be an owner operator. Like, I knew that that was not what my goal was. So from day one, even when I could have built my first fence, I could have gone and bought a pair of post hole diggers and a wheelbarrow and get my concrete. I mean, I
Yep.
can get my string lines out, string line gang, all that.
Yep. Hashtag. Yep.
Could have done that. Could have done that. But I knew from day one again, that's where I said operating out of that sweet spot, operating out of where are you bound to have more success, and knowing yourself and sticking to it. So that's the hardest part, even for me, because there's many times where I'm like, I can just do this myself. Like, I could have just gone out and done that myself.
Yeah.
And then I could have kept the money and made the money. But that's very short-sighted, because if I would have done that, we wouldn't have been able to position ourselves to get the contracts, to land the work that we needed to produce the results that I expected.
And with that being said, like I found that same boat. Like I sent two of my guys out yesterday to do some piddly stuff, and I could have done that in a fourth of the time. And I think we still have to do one little small wrap up on the thing, but guess what? I always tell my dad, there's a million things in the fence world, a million things that these guys need to experience, right? But if I keep doing it and he keeps doing it, when are they going to experience it on their own? And guess what? They had to have a special bit. They couldn't do this, but they figured it out. They figured it out. That's what it takes. That's the hardest part about, and that's just wrap up like repair type work, which, if we're just in the field running, today we ran 5-foot black vinyl, we set posts, drove posts. Dude, that's easy. That's so repetitive. It's so like it goes here. And if you on the back end have your systems in place and say a project manager or your arc site or your elite technique of the work, right? And it was drawn out and all the questions were answered, there really shouldn't be. It should be very repeatable. Right.
Right.
I think that's what a lot of owner operators, they don't get it. I don't know if it's, they don't believe it. They don't trust in that. SOPs. When I say SOPs, a lot of people roll their eyes. I freaking love them. I love an SOP for everything. I don't know, Nathan, that's like the biggest struggle I see is as an owner operator. And because everyone typically starts as an owner operator, some don't, some can jump right in. Let's jump over to, we talked key hires, Randy Ward, Donnie Lockhart. You started with, he needed, he didn't fall in your lap. I think you planted seeds. And what does Joe Evers always say? Like, success is on the path of this and this. Like,
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you set it up and it happened. Did you go straight into like the commercial world, residential? I know a lot of guys, residential in some areas is kind of drying up, which means commercial industrial picks up. I've seen that, but we're still heavy in residential. Where did you start? Where did you go first? Sometimes maybe commercial industrial. Maybe there's bid sites out there. Did you go to something like that? Or did you hard knock on doors, cold calls? How'd you do it?
We have secured and won in a little less than 2 years, 2 bid work jobs. So everything else is like our friend Tony Thornton over at Thornton Fence Consulting Group would like to say. Everything else has been negotiated commercial or straight up residential. Mm-hmm. I mean, bread and butter. But that's easy. That's easy stuff for me to do because I use, I've done all the certifications for like gate operator design systems. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of what we do when we're doing these large commercial projects. The largest job we've done to date is for an industrial facility here in town. It's a manufacturing plant. And I believe I've run 3 purchase orders through them. And I want to say the total should be about $180,000 off 3 POs. And one of the POs, the first one I got, Dan, was $100,000.
Wow.
So you can't just get into that. You have to know how it works, the verbiage, the terminology. it's really hard to do. If I had not worked and was a manager at Allied Fence here in Tulsa, I would not have had the experience I needed to dominate these commercial jobs like that. You see what I'm saying? So there was things that I needed to learn. But to be fair, my years at Ameristar was the same thing. I was always learning, always trying to talk to my clients and figure out. I was just a sponge with what everyone would say. They'd say words like, "Oh, this GC." I'm like, "What the heck's a GC?"
Right.
And they're like, "Oh, it's a general contractor." What's a general contractor do? And I developed this map, and I realized that very often, because we were a manufacturer, we were in a unique position to be able to talk to an owner, an architect, and a GC, and our sub. No one can do that. Well, I didn't know that. Well, understanding that over time, and now being in the case where I'm like, this is incredible. I'm a guy that grew up in the business saying, I'm going to call the architect. And now, as a subcontractor, you are not calling the architect.
Right.
You do that, the GC's like, bro, I will bury you alive.
Yeah.
If you ever go around, oh man, I'm sorry. No, I've never done that. But I'm saying, if you don't know these things,
Right.
There's just that learned experience. And again, like I've been talking about on my show, I'm fearful for so many guys and gals out there that have just been in this space the last couple years that you didn't learn everything that you needed to because you didn't have time. Like that's the part of this that's tough. And we do a lot of residential. That's cash flow, man. I mean, most companies, if you're doing both, residential's cash flow. But the commercial for us is we always maintain and run the same margins across the board. I'm always I know what I want to make. I tell everyone, whether you're commercial, residential, it doesn't matter. I'm always telling you, listen, I'm not trying to send my kids to college off your job. Like, let's be clear. Like, even if you see that price and you're like, oh, Nathan's screwing me. Nathan's not screwing you. I am the same if it's a $2,000 job or $150,000 job. Like, it does not change. We know what we need to do. We know what we need to cover. We understand our costs. We know how to bid the jobs correctly. It's a fair price. And then I just sell it on the value. Like, what expertise are you getting? Like, is there a benefit and value to having a Randy Ward out there? It's a no-brainer. Even the other day we were on a bid together, and I got to tell the person that he's my mentor. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, I work for him. I mean, just saying that, Dan, and you're on a job site, you should see their face. They're like, oh, like, what's going on here? This is,
yeah.
And then Randy's like, hey, we're going somewhere. And I'm like, that's not the owner saying that. That's one of his guys. And they're like, damn, all right. And I'm like, when you send it, I'll send the paperwork over. Sign it now. Let me go grab my iPad so you can sign it now. And that's the kind of stuff we're doing. But I would say split wise, it's probably 70% residential, 30% commercial since the beginning. A lot of that, goes back to, and I wish before we started going, I mentioned I was talking to an insurance guy the other day. He was asking me how I got my leads. And because I have a CRM and Job Nimbus that tracks all of that, I have the dollars for 2023, where everything came from. And I believe 80% of our work came from direct referrals, continued clients, or what was the other thing that was at the top of that? It was direct referrals, continued clients, and SEO.
So real quick, you talked about learned experience, and that has got to you propelled you to like on the commercial industrial side, and a lot of guys that they're not going to get that anytime quick. But in my opinion, you can leapfrog that, and one of those ways is Tony Thornton, right? Tony Thornton can come into your business and help you with that, help you with verbiage, help you with contracts. Again, it goes back to like you kind of have to spend money to make money, right?
Right.
And while he's there, he's probably going to do a whole heck of a lot more for your fence company. But that's if you don't have a mentor, even if you have a mentor, I feel like that someone has to have skin in the game, right? You have to have skin in the game. You just can't go lean on Nathan Downs for 4 days, right? Like he's busy, everyone's busy. but we're lucky. These COVID babies got it good, Nathan, because now there's a lot of, the Academy in April, the Michigan Fence Academy. There's the Purple Wave, there's Tony Thornton, and there's a lot of other guys that are very successful in the fence world that have free time that's willing to open up and help these young guys. In your opinion, is that a way to leapfrog from some of these young guys? Like maybe they're crushing it in the residential world. They want to get their feet wet in the commercial industrial. Do you think they should find a mentor or, maybe knock on the door of Tony Thornton? Is that kind of something that you would recommend?
So this drops tomorrow.
It'll drop next Wednesday.
Oh, next Wednesday after we're gone from Shangri-La. Okay.
Well, Wednesday morning when we're there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So you missed one is where I can start with that sentiment. Yep. You've got to be looking online. You've got to be looking for these things to get around these leaders, to network and learn from them. Tony's summit that we're all about to be at, there's 80, 90 some plus people, I think maybe now 100, that are going to be back in Oklahoma next week. You're going to be coming down, and there's that kind of value for the price is so high. You can't even talk about, you talk about Mr. Fence Academy. I mean, if you don't know anything, you go to something like that and it does change your life. Yes. Because there's going to be things that you just simply didn't know or never thought about that these guys have all done and they've been there. You talk to a Robert Whitaker. Every time I talk to Robert, I'm like, dude, this guy is so freaking good. Like, he is so good. He just the way he talks and the way he thinks and the way he acts. But what's funny now is as things are, going along and they're maturing a little bit, and we're still so young, but I'm hearing what these other guys that I look up to and are learning from, what they're saying. And I'm sitting there laughing, Dan, going, damn, I say the same thing. I'm going, well, no wonder, you guys are watching this going or listening going, I still don't understand how I got here. It's because of all the things that came before. It's the, I've said it on your show. It's the Thomas Jefferson effect. It's fun. I find it funny. The harder I work, the luckier I am, all these things. But in that hard work, in that grind, we're soaking things in. I'm always asking questions. I'm always interested in seeing if and I look at things from the perspective now of like, is there an easier way to do this?
Right.
I mean, simply, am I doing it the easiest way, or am I just making this harder on myself? Because this is all I know.
Getting to the live events, I always scream that from the mountaintops on every freaking episode. Sometimes I get irritated when these events aren't packed, right? Because the people you're going to meet and the headaches you're going to solve, like you're going to just leapfrog these plateaus. And if I was opening, if I was new in business, that's exactly what I'd be doing. And I go to these, and we're 40 years in. So, like, if that tells you anything, like, come on, guys. So let's talk real quick. Biggest struggles. I got like 3 questions here. Biggest struggles of 2023 that you've seen. Maybe you didn't see them coming, but they ended up being a struggle. And you're like, dang, I didn't see that one coming. I got to prepare for it next time.
Cash flow. Especially when you get into commercial stuff. I mean, everybody hears that, but that definitely strapped us several times to where I was sitting there not having the cash on hand and not having a plan for when that happened, like having my line of credit with the bank set up and stuff. Now, fortunately, like I said, I'm able to sell through a lot of that. So where other people that literally could have put them out of business because they don't know their numbers and stuff. Yeah. But the cash flow part of it, several times, there was times where it crunched down to, whoa, we do not have any money. Like, so then all of a sudden I'd spend a Friday being Guido going around town going, listen, I need a check or a credit card today, right now. Like we're not the bank. And I had to have those conversations. And the only reason why is because I'm new. Like I just didn't have the money in the bank. So I'm going, I got to go get it,
So cash flow was a big struggle. Give me a big win from 2023. Not enough people talk about the big wins because maybe it's something that someone's struggling with and there's a way out of it.
The biggest win for sure right now is what bringing Randy Ward on the team. Having someone in my corner like Donnie where he's been able to take so much off my plate and do a lot of the things that he likes, fixing things and doing this. And that's not necessarily my favorite thing to do, but I can.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to give those to him and give him that biatch work, essentially, right? But he knows that that's his contribution today in the business because it allowed me to go out and continue to sell and not have to slow down. And that's what we would talk about through the summer, especially through the spring and summer, when you're going 1,000 miles an hour. You got all these crews running around town. And it's just gangbusters.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing. But bringing Randy on is really the biggest accomplishment because it's been something that I've been working on for years. And I have sold other people on the vision and the idea of where we're going. And I had a couple people that didn't sign on, or I hit them at the wrong time or whatever. And so there's many times where I could have, honestly, in the past 2 years, I could have been like, okay, that is debilitating to the point where I'm not sure this is going to work because I really need this person to help me do this. And it didn't pan out. But then, like I said, it's amazing if you do the right things and you put yourself in the right place. Yeah. For me, God always shows up because he's there the whole time. Like I didn't invite him like, hey, man, we got some success. Come on in here, buddy. It's like the whole time I'm going, man, if you could give me some ideas. Am I going the right way? Am I knocking the sky going, were we doing the right thing? I don't know. What's going on? So.
Give me a win from this year that maybe you surprised yourself with, like maybe something worked out, maybe you got into staining and you made way more money than you thought, or vice versa, maybe a new product line. Give me a win that maybe shocked you.
Yeah, we had a commercial project from a person at another industrial site, another manufacturing plant. But they had called me about doing a gate, and then the gate became a fence, and then the gate became, it needs to be automated. And it was very specific, Dan, to the point of, I don't think the way that it was done, no one else in town could have accomplished the setup the way that we did. I mean, we had a swinging gate going into a cantilever gate, and a mag lock holds them together. And then all of those things lock down to where it's a secured site. And then when the gate releases, everything can open up. Like the swing gate's manual and the slide gate's automated. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of moving parts. Very complex way to, how do I run the wiring? Where do I put the mechanism? Where do I put the magnet? All the, is it fail safe? Is it fail secure? All these different things. So breaking that down. But what was funny was I gave them a bid for ornamental iron, and then they changed it to chain link. Well, I got the purchase order, and it was the purchase order for the ornamental iron, but they said they wanted chain link. Okay. So then I said, well, I think you're going to save a little bit of money. And they're like, oh, really? Well, we budgeted for this. And I went in there and was like, well, you saved a couple grand. And they're like, that sounds awesome. And I'm going, oh my God. I'm like, are you freaking kidding? And then so you're just laughing going, is this real? Like, is this real world? Is this fake? I mean, am I being duped by somebody? But
yeah, you're getting punked.
But at the point, like, they respected us enough. And I even asked the question, are you sure do we need to? And they're like, listen, it's done. You guys have spent a bunch of time. And I'm like, yeah, but great. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And so my margins on that job are astronomical. And I'm just sitting there thinking, holy cow. But even then they look at us as a hero. Man, we save money off of our capital investments. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I'm like throwing in things going, dear Lord, because like I said, like, I'm not trying to send my kids to college off of one project. And it wasn't that big, but when you're talking tens of thousands of dollars and being able to quantify that, you're like, hey man, I mean, that's a pretty cool deal. And to be able to do something where I felt like the entire team and myself did something that really no one in our marketplace probably could have done or wouldn't have come up with the same solution that we did. So,
give me an elevator speech here real quick on you. You're always positive, Nathan. again, back to the whole Facebook world. This is why I stay off Facebook. A lot of negativity. You get a lot of guys. I got Chucks and Trucks, Dan Blanc in the vans down here. They're cheap. They're using Home Depot material, whatever it may be. A lot of negativity instead of focusing on you and being positive. Because I believe, just like you said, like things happen for a reason, right? And I think that positivity, it's good vibes. I'm the type of guy that has, rocks in my pocket and stuff. I'm a visionary type guy. And there's some people that don't believe in it. They don't. They don't. And it's weird to me. Joe Rogan don't believe in it, believe it or not.
I know.
But give me your elevator speech to these guys that are probably rolling their eyes right now to me, listening to how I'm talking positive about being positive, because I really am, Nathan. Like anything that happens, that bad happens, I say, okay, well, at least we learn from it and we won't do it again. Right. I'm like, so heck yeah, that's just, like I said earlier, that's another thing off that we checked off the box that at River City Fence, Dan Wheeler or any of the other guys, we faced it, we overcame it, we know now what to do later. Just give me that elevator speech on being positive and like what kind of effect that has just on you alone.
Yeah. I've got an example from this year around Memorial Day. Many people, or even some of your listeners, can go back in time and check out our show with me and Donnie around Memorial Day of this year. So end of May, early June, there was 2 episodes that we talked about a client where we had done her fence. She was visibly upset, emotionally upset. I mean, it was a disaster. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, we literally built the fence exactly how I told you we were going to. I mean, it's a great fence, Dan. Mm-hmm. A great fence. Like, not a good fence. It's a great fence. But there were some things that we had done on the tear out and whatever. So it was causing such grief and strife. I had asked the lady, it's probably a $10,000 job. She had paid her deposit. We take a 50% deposit, right? And I said, listen, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm going to take my sign off your fence. You owe me $500 more. At least I'm going to be covered on materials for the most part. I'm out the yin yang on labor. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just taking a bath on everything. But I ended up giving her about $4,000 off her bill just to go away and never talk to me again. And she had already blasted us online for nonsense, just nonsense. And I said, listen, I'm not going to be strong-armed by someone that wants to lie and all this. And then, but I, even saying those things, Dan, I couldn't say that to her because she was so upset that she was beyond like rational thinking. Okay. And I went by, funny enough, I went by about a week ago to see, because she was talking about ripping down the front of the fence and changing it. And guess what, Dan? That fence is the same as the day I left. But you know what she did have? She had a brand new driveway and concrete walks all the way around the house. So I looked at that as I drove by the other day thinking, we paid for that. Yep. And that's my driveway. And it looks great. And I'm sitting there. I took another picture of the fence because it looks freaking awesome. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't care what this lady thinks, but that kind of mindset, like I could be better or I could be bitter. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I need to change in those 2 scenarios is I. So it's I. If it's about me, I'm going to be bitter. But if I take the I out of the equation, I could be better. And it's cliched to a point, but it's true. I mean, what we do and how we approach things matters. And you got to figure out what your ground level is and then work from there. I'm a super emotional and passionate guy. I do get fired up and stuff, but still I have enough wherewithal after years of being in construction to know like when something is just like that scenario with that homeowner. Mm-hmm. It's a lose-lose. I'm going to lose no matter what. So now we're at the point where I just need to walk away but knowing that we did the right thing, we did what we were supposed to do. Sure, were there things that were still messed up that I was trying to go back and fix? I was still trying to fix it, man. As she's telling me, you will never come back on my property. And I'm like, give me an hour and a half and I can fix that. And she's like, that's not good enough. And again, she wanted a new driveway. So now we know what the real truth is, right? 6 months later. So
Yeah, I have one of those here, not far from where I live here. Same kind of situation. Just, it's a lose-lose, like you said. And I went over it with my cousin, and he was flabbergasted at like what we did. And I'm like, no, like it's a lose-lose. I'm not going to fight with them on the reviews page or Facebook. I'm going to do what I do. I'm not going to cut a corner on a fence. I'm doing the exact same thing. And because you can't cut corners on a fence the way I build, like I just don't. It's physically impossible to half-ass it. Like I just only know one way. And he's just like, dude, that's crazy. That's wild. Don't do it. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do what we were meant to do or hired to do. If they don't want to do X, Y, Z on their part, it is what it is. That's just part of life, man. But I'm not gonna get mad about it. And just before Thanksgiving, we did a job in Sterling, Illinois. And tight streets, truck and trailers, wider than a lot. Had to pull it forward, back and forth, back and forth. Big vinyl job. Brought it in a ready mix truck to pour it. And I had like one extra pole. I moved up to the neighbor's lot, I wasn't blocking his driveway, but I was over his lot. Garbage can was already taken. I put it back on the grass. It was already empty. And I had one vinyl post was extra, and it was leaning off my side box to the grass. And I was on my phone talking to a customer. We were waiting on concrete, and my guys were in the back. And this neighbor comes out and just drops like 10 F-bombs, dude. Get your effing thing off my lawn. It was a vinyl post. And first I didn't hear him because I had my Bluetooth in. I take it out, and I'm like, hey, I didn't catch that. What was that? One more time. And my door was shut. Idiot. And I asked him, he repeated it. It was like 10 more F-bombs. I'm like, okay. And then my guys caught wind of it the second time they were coming up. And they're like, what the hell? And I'm like, dude, I've been doing this a long time. That guy is clearly having a bad day or hates his life or hates his neighbor. I don't know. But if you're going to drag me down, dude, I've been in this situation so many times. You're not going to get a rise out of me, dude. Like for that, like get the hell out of here. Like he put his pit bull out. It was barking at us. Like, dude, none of that is going to bother me. I wear earplugs for a reason, so I can just tune the world out. And I just stay in my positive bubble, dude. Like what you said, like you can be bitter or get better on it. And I 100% agree with that. That's a great phrase, man. Because I don't get bitter over much. Maybe every once in a while, but dude, I can't remember the last time. I can't. Yeah. And as crazy as the business has never been more successful, right? Like, right. Why dwell? I always say, why dwell on shit? Why? Give me a reason. Like, what's it going to do? Nothing. Exactly. So, man, Nathan, this has been great, dude. We're at 51 minutes already.
Man, we went so long. Sorry,
dude, we could go like 4 hours, man. I got to bring it back. We got to do towards the end of the year, which is like very soon. We got to do an Instagram live and just talk 2024. Maybe make some game plans or something.
I was thinking,
what's that?
I was thinking we should, me, you, and Blanc should do something when you're in town and do one long form show.
Yeah.
Like Joe Rogan style. Like, let's just get some waters, some drinks, all the stuffs in one spot. Yeah.
Smelling salts.
And then just go nonstop. Like just,
I'm down.
Roll with it and see where it goes.
I'm down. How long of a drive is it from Tulsa to Shangri-La?
It's about an hour and a half.
So, hey, Sunday, right?
There you go.
Hey, Waffle House, and then 3-hour podcast.
Waffle House. I love it.
Yeah, I love me some Waffle House.
That's great.
For over 30 years, Southwest Automated Security has been the premier provider of gate operators, access controls, CCTV, and so much more. Visit southwestautomated.com today, taking dealers to the next level.
Hey guys, bonus episode time on the Protect Your Radius podcast with Nathan Downs. I've got the great Dan Wheeler with the Fence Industry Podcast on here with me. And as you guys heard our conversation on Dan's show, man, lots of good stuff there, Dan. You asked a lot of great questions. And I wanted to turn this around, provide everyone else a little bit extra material from you because we talked about being a new company on my end, right? But from a seasoned, veteran company, someone that's leading your marketplace already, there are a lot of people that are running these companies that listen to our shows, right? That have family businesses, maybe they're second, third generation. They're very aware right now. Like, you talked about this and you've seen this in other industries, especially in the trades. People are picking things up faster than they ever have before. The information's out there. We're talking about these things because we're not direct competitors, but hell, even if you are a direct competitor, it sure does make it a lot better, Dan, when we're all going up together, right? Like I'm making my own competition better just because they're watching and paying attention and listening to this stuff. So you guys have been around for 40 years.
Yep. I think next year we celebrate 40 years in business. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So 40 years in, you have changed so much in your business in the last 10 years, really being involved in stuff like that. But even since the COVID years, we've gone through all this upswing and everything, establishing your SOPs, working on those things, like where do you see you guys at River City Fence? I mean, what do you see as the next step, the next evolution that you're working on going into 2024 right now?
A couple big things, and they kind of tie together. One is we've ran Job Nimbus here the last 2 years, and basically for us, we're old school still. It's basically a file system to keep and I use it every day. We just track it, move that folder around from the initial sales contact, Alan, which a full-time salesman now this year, which is awesome. That has taken so much off of mine and my dad's plate. So getting to 100% with Elite Technique. So now everything is in one spot, easy access. So then that makes it easy for the field guys. We are growing, bringing in some new foremen. I have a new one we hired a couple months ago. We'll carry him through the winter just because I believe in him. He loves our company, and he was attracted to us by our other guys bragging about working at it. It just that formula works for me, and I have zero turnover rate on that end. I'm still bragging about that. But yeah, so bringing in Elite Technique, that CRM, which will help my field guys. Have my dad still at that project manager spot, setting jobs up so we can get in, bang them out. We're driving more posts, a lot of posts, so things are going quicker, right? Guys are installing fast as we've ever been, so we're doing more work. Dude, we're getting into other territories. It's just a lot going on. So I guess from the sales in to the install side, it all kind of ties together. We're going to move into another market, probably 2 other markets, actually. My dad says 1, I say 2 or 3, because I know it's possible, and we've dummy things down to the point of, you know what I'm saying? We don't have to have a guy that's been in the fence world for 15 years to be a foreman. Like, it's just right. With technology, and I know you're a big tech guy, and I'm not, but what little I do know, dude, it makes fencing way easier now.
Yeah, I agree, man. You said something, Dan, that's really good there that I want to hone back in on. The expansion part of it. You're at that point, you've got this maturity in the business, in your marketplace, the domination that you guys have in and around Clinton and stuff like that. That whole area. What's the other side? Clinton, Iowa.
Clinton, Iowa, Fulton, Illinois.
Fulton, yep. Thank you. Sorry. Yep. So Clinton and Fulton, how you guys just dominate that whole zone, that metro area, so to speak. But going into other markets, how crucial is the SOPs? Because you've just learned this stuff. When did you start learning about processes and putting things in place? I mean, when would you say you really took note of that? Outside of, I should clarify for my listeners, you really learned that first outside of the business at John Deere, right?
Yeah.
In having experience in manufacturing, just like me at Ameristar, is you can't put money to that later because there's so many things we learn in manufacturing that you're like, oh, like the Six Sigma things of the world, where that all of that comes from, and then you let it come into a trade, and you see we need to have a standard operating procedure. So how did you, when you started doing that, what was you did you begin with the end in mind with that? Or did you just know you wanted to make life easier? What was your first thought? And then where are you at today with that?
So bringing that into River City Fence, I was very frustrated daily. And I had this talk with another father-son operation. I won't name names, but same situation, very frustrated. So just one day, we just had to wipe the slate clean. So from now on, when we take the welder to the job site, we do a lot of on-site welding. We got the big suitcase welder, the big, everyone knows who's that. We have that, but we never had this, so we're missing that. We didn't have this. You didn't have the extra wire. You didn't have a fire blanket, right? You have the extra. Okay, so I just stopped, spent a little bit of time, made some boxes. Everything's in there. You could even go another step further, take a picture, label it, do whatever. And this is where we put it, right? Right here on this shelf. These 3 boxes all go together. Every time this welder leaves, it goes. Problem number 1 solved, right? Now, okay, let's go into posts. Like, let's use the bander. Guys didn't know how to use a bander. It's kind of a pain in the butt. You have extra posts you bring back. Now you just use a small ratchet strap. You know what I'm saying? I just took care of the small little things. And over the last 4 years, man, now we're really, I say we're cooking with bacon grease, but to bring a guy on, I always use this example. If I bring in a new hire, he's going to be up to speed in 2 weeks. And I'm not going to stop and train him on every little thing. He's just going to pick up on repetition, just like a factory, just like a John Deere. If you know how to weld MIG, Nathan, I could bring you in and show you the front end loader frame of a John Deere front loader. You're talking 2,000 welds. Robot does a couple thousand. We're talking massive, giant 30,000 pound piece of steel. And I can do that in a week. Yeah, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, but 2 weeks max. You're going to learn that, all because there's standard operating procedures. There's ways to do it. I don't have anything more in the trucks that we need or anything less. Right? Like, that was the other thing. We just have a bunch of junk, or you don't have enough. Like, it's just things like that, Nathan. I just started checking them off. I just started here, the biggest pain, and I worked my way down. Now, we're cooking this winter, man. Where we're at now, I guess, we're going to get those on paper. We're going to get those posted. Every down minute that Alan, our salesman, has, dude, write an SOP on how to clean the bathroom. Write an SOP on how to, what we do for Facebook. Our two posts a day, this many pictures, this many emojis. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Everything is written down, simplified, and easy accessible. He did one. We lost keys to a truck. We got a bunch of trucks. Couldn't find them. We have 2 locations for it. Okay, now we have a key box, and now they're all labeled, and now they all go there, and now there's an SOP saying whoever drove that truck last, the key goes in this box, and gas and blah, blah, blah. There's a couple other things. Period. Simple. Easy. One issue done. So that's where we're at now. Really getting them written down, posted, and in the spring we'll do probably like a day-long training on everything, on SOPs, but that's where we're at now.
So there's almost a gestation period, right, to establishing those. How long did it take you to do some of them? How long did it take you to do all of them at this point? Like, give everybody an idea of, like, mission critical things that need to happen first. Like, thinking back in time over the last several years that you've been doing this part of that, what kind of time frames did some of those items take?
Are you talking just making the SOP?
Yeah.
Some of those are 20 minutes, right? So,
Yep.
And okay. Some of them, and I wish we have it figured out, but it's not all figured out. I don't like my shelving where everything goes, right? Our Ameristar shelving, like today was a perfect example. Take all the Ameristar fittings. We sort them and organize them. So it's just in buckets, right? We'll take it all. Well, where's the hardware for the gates? There's somewhere, right? But if I had a shelf location and I said Ameristar hardware gates kits, hardware, they would be right there, not here, right? It seems like a pain. It is. We're all busy to spend 20 minutes on something, but guess what? Dude, that 20 minutes would have saved me. Me and another guy looked for 20 minutes, so that's 40 minutes when I could have been working on something else on the business, not in the business, looking for Ameristar gate hardware, like the biggest time waste ever. But you got to do it. It sucks, I know, and a lot of guys roll their eyes to it. It is what it is. Like, but that's when you look at businesses like Robert Whitaker, Mr. Fence, right, or Magnolia Fence and Deck, Mr. Fence up in Evansville. Like, those guys aren't in the business, but it runs because they have SOPs for everything. John Deere is the same way.
Yeah, what's funny you say that, Dan, and that's a simple thing that I think a lot of people could overlook, especially if you're newer in the business, like putting kits together for your gate hardware. That How much time does that take when we have all of our bins and think about chain link. You got your males here, you got your females here. We know, the drop fork, the latch collar, but then it needs the nuts and bolts. Well, the nuts and bolts are right here. Now, in our shop, they're right next to it, but they're just not together. So one of the things that I did for my son and my nephew is they want to be working in the business. They want to make some money. Hey, guess what? I have got a job for you that I do not want to do. I got all these Ziploc bags. And what I did was I took pictures and I created a sheet. And what I'm working on is making a binder for those two. So literally I could say, I need 3 black single gate kits. I need 2 black round rail kits. I need this, that. And they can go to the book that I can give them my list. They go to the book and they know all the parts that go in this bag and how to label the bag, where it goes on the shelf, right? Like That's a standard operating procedure, but it takes time. And I think that's why I asked about the literal gestation period of these things, because some of these things aren't overnight. Right. Some things are 20 minutes. Some things are 6 months. Right. Some things are 9 months. I mean, they're a much longer play. But now that you've done it and again, an established company, how has that changed the day-to-day workflow for you? Like, is it making it easier? I think you kind of mentioned the answer already about being able to plug people in to the system. Do you think that's the biggest benefit, or is it both? Is it saving you time, saving them time? What do you think about that?
I would say I can plug anyone, not anywhere. Obviously there's limitations, but it's easier to plug and play guys around. Like you're heavy on a job for this, so let's move a guy here. Well, he's not used to that, but it's just easier, right? To do that. It takes me out of the picture also on a lot of little things, like where is this? How does this go? It's the death by 1,000 paper cuts is what I always say. That's what'll get you. It's not the half-hour conversation. No, it's the 35 5-minute conversations is what'll get you. And that would get me all the time. Where's the saw blades? Where's the extra blades? Where's the extra earplugs? Where's the gas cans? Where do the gas cans go? Why? I could go on and on and on and on and on and on. Where do the extra buckets go? Like your gate hardware thing, we have a station and all the nuts and bolts are all labeled. Like we just took the time, and it's this row is for galvanized residential, this row is for black, and that's all the nuts and bolts, and then everything is just columns, right? When we fill our bucket, residential chain link is our bread and butter. We have our galvanized buckets or black buckets, and in our fitting row, it's just bucket. This bucket gets filled with this fitting. This bucket gets filled with this fitting. This bucket, and it's the same thing. Brown, green, same thing. Industrial is a little different, but still the gist of it, the same thing. So I don't have to. I can just say, Keller, go fill all of the galvanized bucket or all the residential, and he can do it. It's easy. It's easy. I don't have to say this goes in here. Well, railings and brace bands go in the same bucket. Actually, no, because they're in the same here and they're tagged on that bucket. Like, dude, it's a no-brainer for sure. Like, you just have to be able to read. If you can see, read rail in, 1.3" rail in, 1.3" rail in with the picture, dude, it's like round hole, round peg.
And one thing I would challenge everyone as you're doing that, maybe even you too, Dan, because we're kind of in that process and place right now, is we're trying to, if you go to McDonald's today, you'd be shocked. So this is funny. I heard someone say this in a book, and then I went to McDonald's to see if this was true. The screen that many of these people have, did you know, doesn't have words? It has pictures. Like, oh, you want a 10-piece chicken McNugget? Oh, you want a large Coke? Oh, you want a, it's breakfast. You want a hash brown and a sausage biscuit. Like, it's pictures, man. Like, it's dumb when you're sitting there thinking, but it's not dumb, because what did they do? They created a system and put it in place that they could literally plug anybody in. You or me could walk behind the counter, and if you saw their POS, look, everybody should look at their POS system on the screen. Yeah. You'll be like, what the hell? Like, that's awesome, actually. But what do they do? They want to be able to plug anybody in there. Hey, you need a job? Come on in here. We can get you up to speed in 10 minutes.
Yep.
You already know, we only have 40 things on the menu, right? But
Right.
like, this is what you need to do. And then you got to, you take the credit card goes there, the cash comes here, the till tells you, okay, so there's all these things. But no, that stuff excites me. The reason I mentioned the gate kit thing is because our friends over at Mid-America Fence Supply, they were the first ones. I've bought kitted stuff from other guys, but they were the first ones. When I talked to Patrick and Jim and all them up there, I had never seen anyone diligently and on purpose create kits for every single thing, and nothing goes out as a single piece. And I said, there's no way that can work. And then Patrick showed me how it works. And I said, bro, this is freaking genius. I go, you've got terminal posts, kits. You've got corner post kits. You've got that for vinyl. You've got that for chain link. You've got that for iron. You got that for this. You got that for, they don't do any wood, but if they had wood, I guarantee they would have something there. So we've mimicked that because we've seen our friends do it. We've seen people that are now doing it. And to think that there's companies like Mid-America Fence Supply that sell the things that way, you're like, dude, this is next level thinking. Like I would have, but most of us would see like, well, I wouldn't waste the time to do that, right? Like even your guys' system is the same way we have our setup today. But I see the future of it going, no, man, I need it easy. Like, I need it so easy that we can have someone like the kids. They want to make some cash. They want to, they want to make, $7.50 an hour, whatever minimum wage is, right? They want to come in here and I'm okay with paying that because now I've got something where I know I can let them go and run and do what they need to do. We've got all the parts here. Make these kits, do these things, make it easier because it is. Now that I've started doing it, man, I am shocked at how easy it is to pull an order. I'm like, man, this is freaking awesome.
And with
get out of there and
inventory too. Like if you have 400 or 150 in post kits and 300 corner posts, and you can look at what's sold and sort it whatever which way you need. 375 corner posts. Well, you're short 25, so you got to bring it in. Now we just buy it by the pallets, our fittings. So I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Well, it eventually whittles down. Somebody has to go and do an inventory on that. Otherwise, you get kind of caught with your pants down. And we've all been there on that. But yeah, it makes sense. Like, and why wouldn't you and now your installer, back to the installers in the field, trying to make it easier for them with technology and just systems like that. Now you just know there's 4 corners and 4 ends and 1 gate hardware kit and a double drive gate hardware kit and drop rod, and it's all right here and it's all packaged and labeled, so you can literally lay that out. You can lay the corner kit with the corner. You don't even have to be everyone knows what a corner is, right? Like your youngest helper can lay out what an end and a corner is, and if they don't, you can just kind of that's an end corner or end here, and everyone will understand that. It just makes it easier.
I think a lot of people, Dan, as we say that, there's a lot of people that have been in the business for a long time, and they would poo-poo that idea to say it politely because they know the grind of it when they were younger, right? And I see this talking to other people just in our market sometimes. I'll see them on a job site or a competitor or something. I'm talking to the guys, and I see them doing something, and it's like, no, well, we've always done it this. We've done this for 70 years. And I'm like, but does that mean we still have to do it that way? Can we change something to make it easier? Because duplicatability is important, but especially for those people that want to grow, or you want to make it easier to train people. Duplication is the only way you can do that. And do you want to make it to where your job, like Dan, like your job in the past would have been bring on a helper, and it's going to take 12 to 18 months to get them up to speed at all. And I'm saying because we're doing these things at our companies, I challenge everyone, if you spend the time and invest the time up front to do these things, that window of learning is going to be compressed exponentially.
Yes.
I don't know what the end result may be of that, but I feel like it's going to be like what you just said. I mean, if you could bring a helper and be like, bro, ends, this is an end, this is a corner, this is a line, this is where I want this stuff laid out, this is how, well, okay. I mean, and you start going around. It's the same way we teach people when we're doing wood fences, right? We've all learned wood fences the same way. We all build them a little different, but we've all learned the same concept. And I learned from Cliff Richardson with Stain Track when he was training me. I immediately went to work for FenceTech and Stain Track, worked with them when I left Ameristar. That was my first foray into contracting. But when I was with Cliff over there, that was exactly what he taught me. He said my day one, he's like, if you get on one of my jobs, you're never walking back and forth from the truck without something in your hands. Every time you come out to the fence line, you've got something in your hands, pickets, rails. If we're doing concrete posts, he's like, I don't give a crap what it is. You've got your arms, hands full. Mm-hmm. And then when you need to go back to the truck, you are picking up trash. You're picking up culls, you're picking something, you're taking something with you. So there's no wasted step. Well, suddenly thinking about it from that perspective, it allowed me to learn. How fast did I learn? Because I was cognitively thinking, I always had him in the back of my head, even today, of him going, no wasted step. Do not waste a step, Nathan. Yep. Okay. Don't waste a step. I got it. So, because we only have our time's so finite, especially on a work day, right?
Yeah.
Like we only have so much time to get this stuff done. So how can we be more efficient? How can we do that? And all that plays into that. So kind of wrap this thing up, buddy, put a bow on it. We're talking 2024. We're about to see each other and have some fun, but looking at what's coming down the pipe. What do you think is going to be your big step next year for River City Fence? Like, you've got these goals, you've got these plans, but what is the one thing that you really see is going to be the game changer for the next steps for your company?
Us letting foremen, guys that we've brought up, run their own crew, do their own install, not hovering, right? Not being on every single post install, letting go, which means, my dad, we kind of let go in the sales world this year, which was freaking huge, right? But we found the right guy. Sales are great. So I got that captured. Now, if my dad can be that middleman, that project manager, and with me and another foreman, and I like to bring on another one. I like to run 3 full-time crews plus a part-time shop guy that'll be in the field, kind of like what Donnie does. But yeah, that's our big thing. That's going to just take us to the next level, and I'm excited for it. I know we have it in place. Everything's in place. We know what we're doing. It's not going to cost us a lot of money because we've been around forever. We have a lot of trucks. We have a lot of trailers, a lot of machines. I can buy another couple pounders in 2 seconds. Getting material. We have that all in the bag. There's nothing, Nathan. I have this many iPads stacked, right, that we pay on monthly for the cellular, whatever. So I have everything. The CRM, I have everything. Right. The acre lay down yard stacked to the gills with material. Everything. It's just letting go and letting the guys do what they get paid for, and they get paid well. They don't need to be grunts forever, right? Like, they need to take the next step. So
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm excited. I hope that challenges a lot of companies, especially those that are beyond in their years. They're not startups like our company, but they're, looking at things, trying to evaluate. I've been in business for X time. I've been in business for 5 years, 10 years. I've been in business for a couple decades. I'm looking to see. That's why they're listening to our stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's people right now that are listening and watching this stuff going, oh yeah, that's why I listen to these 2 knuckleheads talk about this stuff, because that's what they need. But you have to be like, that challenge is internal, and then you just have to do it. And it's hard, man. I'm in the same boat all the time. We have less time every day, but I know the things that if I'm sacrificing one thing, I'm looking at, like you mentioned earlier in your show, am working on the business instead of in the business and stuff. And that's, again, we've all heard that said. People have been talking about it, especially now more and more over the past couple of years, but it's true. If you want to go somewhere, you've got to make a plan. You've got to execute the plan, and then just make sure and work with your whole team. I would say that's my closing piece of this, is make sure everybody's involved as much as possible. Mm-hmm. We're talking about starting up our Monday morning meetings. We're not going to do it on Monday mornings right now because there's only really 5 of us that would be there for the most part, right? So we're talking about doing Tuesdays at 9:15. and I've got a slot of time that we're like, this would be really wise to use this space. Randy wants to do like a 15-minute, 20-minute deal where we're talking about, hey, an open communication forum at that time, and then looking at the true Monday morning meetings. Are we teaching a life skill? Are we doing a toolbox talk? Are we talking about safety? Are we talking about some of these things? Because it doesn't matter, like in my scenario, it doesn't matter today because there's only a handful of us in the office day to day, right? But sooner than later, much sooner, right? Mm-hmm. The team is growing exponentially. I'm like you. I have spent all my money at this point amassing things for the preparation of when it's time to turn. I need to hire a tech for the gates. I've already got a truck ready, right? Mm-hmm. I've actually got 2 ready. Okay, so no one knows that. But why did I do? Why have we been working on this? Why have we done that? For that exact reason what you're talking about is because we want to know when it's time to plug the person in, or when that person shows up, we are properly prepared to take the next steps and do the things that are on our goal list. But it's only going to work into the future team and where the team's growing. So it's exciting stuff, man. Super exciting. So, bro, I appreciate you. It's super late. We're, as all the people that have been watching it on my show, they see I'm hanging out in the cold Oklahoma night air, smoking a cigar. My fire went out long ago, nonetheless. But no, I appreciate your time, man. We're excited for 2024, and I look forward to seeing you soon with all our friends up at the Thornton Fence Consulting Group.
I'm pumped.
All right, bro. Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Peace.
You've been listening to the Protecting Your Radius podcast from the LuxCore Studios in Bixby, Oklahoma. Thanks for sticking around, and connect with us and all of our partners at www.protectingyourradius.com. We want to thank our premier partners. LuxCore, the newest line of premium quality composite infill to slide into your FenceTech fence system. Frame your style today. Also, StainTrack, the world's first patented standalone stain machine. Utilizing flood coat technology, StainTrack covers boards, pickets, posts, and any type of dimensional wood you can think of. And what better way to use your StainTrack machine than to use the easy application Wood Defender family of stains. Wood Defender goes on easy and covers in one coat with no back brushing. And of course, the true power of our show is you, the listener. Please rate and review our show on whatever platform you consume this content. Your 5-star likes and reviews help other contractors get the message that we all want to be better and do better. And in the construction world, we can never forget that before you can be great, you've got to be good. Before you can be good, you've got to be bad. But before you can even be bad, you've got to try.